Good morning, everybody. Thank you. And thank you, Jim. I'll be brief, but a couple thoughts. The world of private equity in Jacksonville and other great cities is advancing along. Real estate development, downtown development, higher education innovation, across the board. I'm an M&A guy from PepsiCo and Bristol Myers and other places, and I look at the VC space here and I think, man, we could, if we could come together and kind of lean into what we all think we see. These aren't $500,000 and $1.5 million opportunities, and they're not separate opportunities in various silos. I look around a room like this, and all friends of this university, all friends of each other. I just want to say thank you for being here, and I hope we all put our shoulder into this. This venture capital opportunity that we at the university see, especially inside the Davis College of Business and Technology, where we have our dean, Barb Ritter, here, and our provost, Chris Sapienza. We are as serious as we can be about this. We said a couple of years ago we might be interested in a law school, and now we have one. We said we might be interested in a medical school, and now we have one. Or a STEAM institute, and now we've opened one. This next opportunity, we are as serious as we can be, so we're excited to have you here. We hope you enjoy the morning, and I'll be going to listen. Thank you. Good morning.
I'm going to turn it over to Matthew and our panel discussion. We have a great panel for you today. Neal Anderson, recently exited from OnPAY Solutions. Kelly Dyer from SourceFuse, he's the co-CEO. Drew Messers from Urban SDK, a startup here that's in their second round of funding and doing extremely well in both public safety and transportation software. And Andrew Rush, CEO at Redwire, who recently exited. So, thank you. We're looking to grow the pie and create greater opportunity for us. Jacksonville is now at the stage where it's time for us to move beyond $5 or $10 million investment portfolios to hundreds of millions of dollars. And with our corporate partners and new venture capital entrants, as well as private investors here in North Florida, we can be successful and really take Jacksonville to the next level. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is exciting, and we're really happy to be here. Thank you to President Koss, to Dean Ritter, and to Dr. Simak for your efforts. I love the way that President Koss opened, where he said, basically he exhibited the say-do ratio of JU. That's one of my favorite parts about JU is when they say it, they do it. There's sincerity and there's conviction. So I know that if JU is committed to helping build a corporate venture practice in Jacksonville, that it's going to become something that when we look back on it, it'll just seem like it was always there. So I'm really excited about that, and thank you for the support of JU. So I'm Matthew Chang. I'm the founder of Chang Industrial. It's an engineering company that does advanced robotics and autonomous systems. I chose Jacksonville to start my business in. So one of the things I want to drive home today with this panel is space making and community making. I chose Jacksonville because it was the right place. It's where I wanted to be, and I thought I could basically scale an international business from right here. And so if that's possible, if entrepreneurs and founders can scale businesses from Jacksonville, we just have to ask ourselves the question is, what is the business community committed to doing to basically complete the ecosystem? So Dr. Simak gave you the great framing that corporate venture and basically the programmatic investment by corporations in early stage companies is critical. Personally, I'm an angel investor. I'm an angel investor through Venture South. You'll be hearing more about them, and if you want to learn about that, just scan the table card in front of you. We have other angel investors in the room. I was sitting at breakfast, I was sitting next to the Jax Angels, who are well known and have helped some of the companies on this stage in their journey. So angel investing is here in town. Now, how do we build that into corporate venture? So that's basically the conversation this morning. Also, this is the kickoff event for the JVC. The Jacksonville Venture Competition is a live pitch competition that's going to happen in March at let's see, you can see it just down here, JTA's brand new headquarters, that kind of beautiful glass building with a curve in it. So that's March 7th and 8th. Tickets are on sale. We put them on sale right before this event. So go ahead and scan that and get signed up. All right. There's one big thing that I'll add to Dr. Simak's presentation, which is the concept of recycled capital. And so recycled capital comes about when you have as a corporation, you have a portfolio gain, you have an exit from some of the investments that you've made, or you realize the gain, and then you decide to keep that capital and that gain local. And so recycling that basically that house money that you got into the community here and into the startup ecosystem here is critical. And so what as Dr. Simak hopefully convinced you, raising the GDP and the well-being of the community involves corporations keeping some of their benefits here. And then what we're going to show you here in just a second is that there's more than enough talent to help you make money in Jacksonville. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to the panelists. And guys, just take a second and introduce yourself, and then tell us what company that you either are currently involved with or were, and then what the main product offering is.
My name is Drew Messer, and thank you for the opportunity to come today. This has been about a 5-year journey for me and my co-founder, Justin Dennis, and one of the main points of consternation for us is that we've had to go outside of Jacksonville to find the capital. And being a local Jacksonville boy, homegrown, that's always been something that I hope that we could build here as a local BC ecosystem. But my name is Drew Messer, co-founder, CEO of Urban SDK. My other co-founder is Justin Dennis. He's not here today, but I want to make sure he has the recognition that he deserves. My company has built a data management platform. It's designed to give you all of your data service needs in one annual license. We have 3 product SKUs that come out of the platform today. One is Data Hub, where we sell third-party data sources. We also derive our own data sources and sell those. We have a data visualization suite. You get any of your geospatial mapping, dashboarding capabilities out of the data visualization suite. And then what we sell the most of is our Insights product, which is really prescriptive analytics designed to automate specific industry insights or state, federal, and local requirements. Today we serve mostly the public sector, and the real disruption that we're bringing to the market is replacing what has traditionally been done with professional services firms or civil engineering firms.
Drew's company has the data contract for JTA's driverless car project down here on Bay Street.
Yeah, my name is Kelly Dyer. I'm a parallel entrepreneur, I guess. I started 2 different software companies long ago, bootstrapped them both, and kind of grown them here in Jacksonville. One is it's called FlexPoint Inventory Source. It's e-commerce middleware, inventory and order management for retailers and B2B e-commerce. And then the other is SourceFuse. We do application development for working with enterprises as their migration to the cloud, building on the cloud, all cloud application development. And we run product teams to help other companies learn the cloud, navigate the cloud, and build better software. So much like Drew mentioned, it was bootstrapped, but then went looking for capital, and sadly had to go outside of Jacksonville also, but did, this is back in 2018, looking for local resources for that. And there just weren't a lot in the software space in particular, so I hope to see that change, and future entrepreneurs can stay here and get the money here.
Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. My name is Neal Anderson. I am the former President and Chief Executive Officer at OnPAY Solutions. OnPAY is a business-to-business payment technology company, a fintech company. We focus on the accounts payable automation process, helping our clients automate the way they pay their vendors, focusing on middle market to large enterprise. Our clients included, locally, Sudeth, for example, here locally, but Trader Joe's, U-Haul, and such as well. We too were self-funded early, bootstrapped early. Here with me today is also our true founder, Juliet Negretti Anderson, who's my wife. We were a husband and wife team that spent 12 years executing on our mission, and great to be here.
I'm Andrew Rush. I was the president and CEO of a company called Made in Space, which, as the name sounds, did manufacturing in space. We were the first to ever 3D print off the face of the planet. We sold that company in June of 2020, so for those of you playing at home, the height of the pandemic, and that became the core of a private equity-backed platform called Redwire, which I was the president and chief operating officer of. We specialized in a wide variety of space infrastructure, like solar arrays and navigation components, and 3D printing in space. And we went public about 18 months after Made in Space was acquired, and in total acquired by 9 companies. And now I'm enjoying, as I was talking with Kelly, a gap year in my life. And to Matt's point about recycled capital, one of the things that my wife and I did was after I sold Made in Space, we opened a specialty retail store called the Spice and Tea Exchange in San Marco here in town. My family's been here for 5 generations, so before air conditioning, which makes us really loyal. And like the rest of my colleagues on this panel, Made in Space was largely bootstrapped. We did raise a secondary liquidity round, and then obviously with Redwire, when we went public, we raised 9 figures of capital in a couple of different tranches. And one of the things that I think is, one of my experiences from all of that is COVID really broke the financial investment organ of the world. We raised capital all over the nation via Zoom. So we didn't do the road show of going to New York and running from building to building to raise money to go public. I sat in my office, for 6 hours a day and just had Zoom calls with guys in their basements or their apartments or wherever they were. And that's something that we in Jacksonville can tap into in addition to building a great community of investors and leveling the community that is great that exists here. But also we can tap into that right now.
Cool, hang on to the mic. So just to make sure you guys got the panorama, smart city software, warehouse e-commerce and B2B software, fintech, which Jacksonville is famous for, and then space manufacturing, which I still can't get my head around. So that is the local talent pool. These are the people that are putting it at risk, walking away from salaries and day jobs where they could obviously do very well. They're going into founder mode and they're starting something, and it's happening right here. Okay, so Andrew, just coming back this way, just tell us quickly, why was Jacksonville appealing when I'm sure people wanted you to go to Silicon Valley, but each of you guys, tell me, why was Jacksonville appealing in your entrepreneurial journey?
So for me, for Made in Space, I joined Made in Space when it was about a dozen folks, about $1.6 million in revenue, and it was actually based in Silicon Valley. It was a space company, hard technology, building atoms, not bits, and based in the most expensive zip code in the United States. And there was actually a really big and legacy space company that was basically across the street from us. It was struggling mightily financially because, again, they're building these big, expensive, long lead items in the most expensive zip code in the United States. And as we grew the company, we said, hey, this doesn't really make sense. So we actually ended up moving the organization from Silicon Valley to Jacksonville because this is a place, to echo some of the points that Jim was making earlier, that has great infrastructure, has an amazing, kind of standard of living. It's also, I like to tell folks, it's very choose your own adventure. If you're young and you want to live at the beach, you can do that. If you love the river, you can live there. If you want great schools, we have that. If you're a later career, this is a good place to think about retiring to. And we have, knock on wood, an amazing football team, and a symphony. And Jacksonville has all the accoutrements of a big city, but you don't have to pay $1 million for 800 square feet of an apartment, and that's really, really attractive to a technologist, employee base, and so that was why Jacksonville was where we relocated the city, and that's why Redwire, its headquarters is here. It's because of the momentum and the infrastructure and the talent that exists here.
Carlton Robinson, after his gap year, you can put him to work at the chamber.
Yeah, for us, Jacksonville's actually got a lot of really good infrastructure for small business. For example, we were in the first cohorts of the Jax Bridges program, Carlton. What was great training ground for a startup. But one of the key values out of that is we met a banker who was willing to give a small company a line of credit, and it was a huge deal for us. Then we also worked with the iTech program at FSCJ. That was a program that they had a grant from the state of Florida to retrain IT professionals during the last recession. And so out of that, they also would agree to pick up about 50% of the base salary of that person for a 1-year period. And so as a bootstrap company, we got great talent individuals into the organization at a discount, right? And then we also leveraged the SBDC program at UNF. Did great opportunity, great job helping us hire and figure out who the right people to hire through that program as well. So Jacksonville had really had that infrastructure in place that was critical to us.
For me, the choice was specifically the beach. I was it was virtual at the time and kind of young. I was 13 years ago, and it could be anywhere. Really wanted to live at the beach, and was shortlisted this like southeast beach areas that would be cool cities to live in. And then I was coming from Charlotte, and demographically, Jacksonville is like very similar to Charlotte size-wise and population-wise, just cooler because it's on the water, And so it seemed like there was a lot of potential here, not knowing really anything about it at the time. But specifically was drawn to the beach community, the beach environment. So office has always been at the beach, and I've just, that's where we set up shop. But then being a part of larger Jacksonville as it's going, it's got the infrastructure for it. I've used the SBDC also. I've been running a meetup group for the last 7 years trying to connect the Jacksonville problem of being spread out. But there's actually a lot going on here if you can shine a flashlight on it and make people aware. So that's been interesting to see also. But really, yeah, it started at the beach, but as a city that seems like a lot of potential to grow in, and I think that's proven to be true.
And Kelly is the organizer of Jax Tech. So if you ever want to really surround yourself with some brainiacs, they've got their next meetup tomorrow, but they do it about once, every 2 months or so. Yeah. And you can sign up for that. That is a great place to find out what's happening next. You show up to Jax Tech, you're going to hear about it. And the other benefit is he always has an open bar, so that's fun too. That's an important part of it.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm born and raised Jacksonville, Florida, 3rd generation. So I don't think there was ever any consideration that I would start a business anywhere else. But we became inspired to start the business in 2016 when the U.S. Department of Transportation released their Smart Cities Challenge grant. It was basically a call to every city in the country to win a $45 million grant to pursue what they said were, transformation or the opportunity to do government 2.0. And so when we really dove into what that might look like and think about that future, if we were going to be successful as a company, we wanted that to be here in Jacksonville, innovating at the local government level, and then be able to take what we can innovate here to the rest of the country. So. Again, I don't think there was ever any other consideration for us, and very proud that we've been able to build it here in Jacksonville.
Cool. Drew, hang on to that. So, past couple years have been interesting. We heard a couple references to COVID. So why don't each of you as founders tell us, one quick story of a touch and go moment you had, and also maybe, if you had to rise to adversity during COVID and figure something out a new way, we'd like to hear about that too.
We actually had a very interesting story. So we were accepted into the Techstars Smart Mobility Program in Turin, Italy in January of 2020. For those of you who don't know, Techstars is a global accelerator that really prepares a young company to be ready for institutional capital. And everything was fine until the COVID pandemic hit Milan. And that happened during the Fashion Week of Milan. And so they shut down our entire program, told us that we needed to go back to our apartments for a week and monitor the situation. That was eventually shut down physically, and we had to come home and finish that program virtually. So that was a little bit of a touch and go experience trying to build a young company as the world is starting to wrestle with the pandemic. We also were entertaining an acquisition in the summer of 2020, and about 3/4 of the way through the acquisition, we determined that probably wasn't the best option for us. And in light of that, we had to bootstrap. Our founders had to pay the payroll for a couple of months to make sure that we could keep the company solvent and get us to the next investment round. So there were some challenges that year. I look back at that year and think that's really where we turned the corner and became who we are today. But that was definitely a year where you had to learn those entrepreneurial skills to overcome those challenges that you can't foresee.
Yeah, for me, the touch and go early on in COVID was in the kind of enterprise application development space, doing digital transformations. We found ourselves on a couple large clients, significant, altogether make a significant piece of our pie, all shutting down, furloughing employees, and gone like overnight. So that was kind of a touch and go moment. But luckily, there was actually more companies that were struggling to go virtual and needed the help and weren't able to do it. So we picked up like an entirely different book of business within a quarter, and we ended the year kind of ahead of where we projected. So it was a little touch and go, and ended up being actually a boom for kind of being able to be agile and pick up the work that everyone was now open to be remotely or had to be remotely, and they weren't set up for it. So that was a bit of a change. And then on the e-commerce side, we actually experienced a boom also. A lot of people, like, first of all, supply chain disruption and people looking for alternative ways to source and do B2B trading partners to get their business done, and even smaller businesses launching new e-commerce because they had to go virtual. So we kind of experienced a boom on that side of it too. So in the end, it was tricky to navigate, but I'd say it worked out great for both businesses.
And in Dr. Ritter's class, that's called a pivot.
Yeah, so similar to Kelly's experience, COVID, and I say this with all due respect for companies that struggled and failed during COVID, absolutely. But for us, a company, you mentioned digital transformation, we were helping our clients stop printing paper checks and paying their vendors electronically. And it really, for us, hit home when we got a phone call one afternoon from a controller of a large company in California, and she called up to say, hey, listen, since the pandemic, we've all had to go home. I literally packed up our laser printer in our office, took a box of check stock with me, envelopes, and I'm printing checks at home. And it just so happens that the CFO of our company lives in my neighborhood, and he's walking over twice a week to hand sign checks, and we're mailing them out. Can you help us? And we're like, so obviously it actually was really a boon for our business to help accounting departments realize that you're not tied to these manual processes, and there is a better way.
Yeah, so for us, for a space company, you're very heavy in two areas. You're heavy in folks in the room working together, designing and putting things together, and you're also heavy on taking that hardware to facilities and having them shake it and bake it and blast it with acoustic and other forms of radiation to make sure it's going to survive space. So that's very supply chain. It's very like people in the room together and very supply chain driven. And it's also very government facility driven. And for most of 2020, we weren't allowed to go to government facilities, which meant payloads were sent into space, weren't getting checked out, so they couldn't go. And so that was a big impact for the team, as well as just seeing everybody face to face every day and then not. And so having that, protecting the culture, shifting to like, hey, just Teams call people. Like when, we used to walk by their office, now just get on Teams and do that. And just have those little drop-ins was a big transformation. But we had, we were fortunate in that both the government generally, and then our, and our like project managers at NASA and at DoD agencies, recognized the struggles and then adapted and said, hey, let's figure out like how we might do this testing, but not show up in Huntsville, Alabama, or not show up in various places and still get stuff to space, because the astronauts still needed stuff, the warfighter still needed stuff, and we were able to overcome that.
Super. All right, well, we're going to do one more round of normal questions, then we're going to do kind of a lightning round where it's one word or one phrase only, and then we'll make sure we have a couple minutes for questions from the audience, because I'm sure you've got a few. So the next is basically describe your exit strategy and just kind of, in a few words, how that came about. And I'm sure for each of you it's different, and I'm also sure you had really smart investors behind you helping you figure that out. But just describe your exit strategy and give us context to what the journey is all about. And if you haven't exited yet, that's fine. Just tell us what you're thinking of doing.
So for me, I'll maybe talk about Made in Space and talk about the Redwire Go Public. So with Made in Space, we weren't at that moment actually looking to sell. We were in the midst of negotiating a strategic investor by a large aerospace company. And one of the things they said as a condition of their investment was, we want first right of refusal if Boeing or Lockheed or a few other companies come to you and like make an offer. Like, we want to be able to, you know, top that. And so, you know, I and my board said, well, let's go do a market check. Let's go see what Boeing and Lockheed and others might you know, have in mind. And that ended up kind of kicking off a process and you know, ultimately led to a very good transaction. And that's the interesting thing there is, I think a lot of companies actually get sold when they least expect it. Like, when you're the most healthy and you're like, hey, this is going well, like that ends up being an interesting moment. When we took Redwire public, oftentimes when a firm is bought by a private equity firm, the private equity is like very explicit about their exit strategy, right? They have a defined amount of hold period they want to target, and you're either going to get sold to a bigger private equity firm, or sold to a strategic, or you're going to go public. And really, in only one of those three instances is the culture and the focus and the vision of the company going to endure, and that's the going public. So when we formed Redwire, that was like, you know, that's sort of, you know, those three options were sort of bronze, silver, gold. Going public being the gold option, right? Because it can be a forever home for the technology and for the vision. And in space, which everybody's familiar with space, it's this wonderful, fascinating thing, but it takes a long time, and you have to have a long vision. So having that kind of forever home, that enduring vision, the going public was the goal. And so we were fortunate that there were some things in the marketplace, there were some tailwinds in the marketplace that enabled us to very quickly do that. Now, we did have to sort of jump through the eye of the needle and take a whole bunch of companies that didn't have audited financials and, you know, get them to go public in, you know, 18 months. But that was really the goal from the outset with Redwire.
Super. And just to be clear, your Wall Street entrance was a SPAC?
That's
correct. Right? Okay.
Yes.
And then how many, as the time of your gap year starting, we're proud of you, how many local employees did you have in Jacksonville at the Redwire facility here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, so Redwire has 700 employees, you know, really worldwide. And of those 700, about 140 to 160 are here in town.
Super. Thanks.
So at OnPAY Solutions, I think it's important to understand this. As a husband and wife team, we started the company, but it wasn't a family business. We started the company knowing that we were going to position the business to be sold and ideally to a strategic partner, you know, in the future. And so it's important because we ran the company like a professional organization. We were never going to start this and have our kids, you know, step into this business. So that was never the plan. And it worked out. We were acquired by Medius Software. Medius is an accounts payable invoice automation company headquartered in Stockholm, Sweden. They acquired OnPAY Solutions, and OnPAY is now their payment asset to a complete suite of payables automation solutions. Recently have leased office space here in town with the plan to move their North American headquarters here to Jacksonville. So we're really proud of that whole process then as well.
That's amazing. That's bringing it home.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Well, I have not exited yet on either company, but it's definitely have plans to. With FlexPoint in our domain, we're heads down trying to focus on growth and scale. But in our space, there's a lot of acquisitions that happen, and they're usually strategic, part of some kind of roll, a strategic roll-up, or larger strategic acquirers trying to kind of buy that particular part of the market. So that's likely what will be our plan, but we're probably a year or two away from actually being there, I think, but that's tentatively what we're looking at. And with SourceFuse, we've been approached a lot, especially over the last year. Whenever the timing is right, it's probably the same thing. Either there's been like private equity interest in building a platform around kind of the team and tools we've built, or joining kind of a larger play there. But that's probably in the radar. But again, probably that's 12 to 18 months out also. So I have plans too, we just haven't done it yet.
Too busy growing the company.
We too are still on our journey. We've taken 2 tranches of capital to date. One was our pre-seed round and then our Series Seed round. So we've taken in $4.5 million in capital. Today we're entertaining a couple of term sheets for our Series A, which will give us another between 6 and 8 million in capital. So when we think about our exit strategy, we're always thinking about 2 to 3 year increments. And for us, it's going to be a revenue milestone. And as soon as we can hit that revenue milestone, that acquisition conversation will become a lot more interesting. And we are forecasting that that milestone is achievable in the next 24 months. And I think those 2 acquisition paths for us are not the going public route, but probably the PE group that is trying to roll up a couple of GovTech companies into a larger platform, or a strategic that is focused today on a services-based model that's looking to transition to a technology-based model.
Okay, thanks guys. So we'll start the lightning round in just a second, but just to drive it home for each of you business folks in the room, that early stage capital, the venture capital that they took to get off the ground, that's you, okay? Fill in your name there. Your company in the future, after this wonderful breakfast and the River Club bacon, which is the best in town, you guys are going to be writing check sizes of $100,000, $1 million, $5 million, whatever it takes to get their next companies off the ground. And you'll be doing it in partnership with professional investors, like some of the angel investors coming to town, or Venture South coming to town. So those guys are going to show you the way, but you guys are going to do it. We have Cutler is sitting over there at the first table. He leads corporate venture for Haskell here in town. They've acquired companies all over the country. That's part of what they do, and then they invest in early stage technologies all over the country. So that's what you guys do. And then when you hear strategic, that's also you, right? So to have a growing company, you need a robust M&A pipeline. That's what Dr. Simak talked to us about. So you got the inside track on the next hot deal in town when you're an early stage investor, and you can track it from the inside as a shareholder. And then when the company gets ripe and they're ready for exit, the so-called strategic investor, that's your company saying, hey, there's a synergy here. We can open a new business line. We can serve our customers in a new way. We can get access to new talent or intellectual property, whatever it may be. Okay, so real quick, just a word or phrase, and we're going to do 2 quick ones, then take questions. Mentors, to put you on the spot, Drew, who's the biggest mentor that's helped you on your journey?
It's hard to pinpoint it. Daniel Davis is an uncle of mine. He is president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Jacksonville. Would be hard pressed not to mention his name. And my father. Those would be the 2 mentors in my life.
Of course, you got 2 in there, right?
I guess I'd probably say my brother mostly. He's spent a lifetime career in private equity at the top of the game, and has shared a lot of insights throughout the years. I've shared my business models with him and said pretend like they're in millions or trillions or whatever you're used to looking at, and still give me the same advice. So he's been pretty helpful throughout the whole journey.
He's not here today, but Jim Stallings, he's the managing partner at PS27. We went through the PS27 program early on, and Jim, I like to always tell the story. Jim's a former captain in the Marine Corps. Went to Annapolis, had a tremendous career at IBM, and he would hold Friday meetings with us where we had to do pipeline review. And it was just always interesting to me as the CEO of the company. He held me accountable, which was really huge for us. So Jim was definitely my mentor.
So there's a gentleman named Sean Mahoney who was the CEO of the first space company that I ever had the pleasure of working for. He really, gave me my first job in space and gave me the room to run, and really set me on a path that I've been proud to live and be today.
Okay, all right, coming back the other way. So now you're in the no warning for the question, Andrew. What city did you go to raise your first capital?
As the city of Zoom.
All right, I hope that must be in space somewhere.
Jacksonville, Florida. We successfully raised angel investment right here in town.
Super.
I was 50-50, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Charleston.
Fantastic.
Ours was actually Tallahassee, Florida. It's a there's a venture capital arm from the state of Florida called the Florida Opportunity Fund. And because we were going to innovate at the government level, we made a pitch to them that why not be a shareholder in our business, and they bought into that pitch.
Super. So with each of these examples, I don't know where Zoom is, and I live there. I live in Zoom, I think. But the opportunity is, let's do it here, right? Let's do it here. Great talent is here, great ideas. The diversity of startups is profound. Let's do it here. That's the kind of closing argument on corporate venture. So before we take questions, one more reminder on JVC. If you're not signed up, scan in, get your tickets. If you'd like to be a corporate partner, we've got a couple corporate partners in the room already here, and JU is a partner. So go ahead and approach me or one of my colleagues after this, and let's discuss that. So any questions from the room for our entrepreneurs here?
I'm just curious, in representing the Jacks Angels, just thinking through some of you who've had such success moving through the early stage, raising capital. I'm just curious, what are the biggest challenges that you've had in telling your story to early stage investors? Was it valuation? Was it product? Was it growth opportunity? Was it, logistics? What are some of the challenges that you've had to get buy-in from early stage investors?
I can give an answer and hand it down. For us, we're in a market, a GovTech market, that is not as well known to investors as your traditional investment markets. And they have some hesitance around how slow the sales cycle is in our market. And so it took a lot of education around how we thought about growth and what our projected forecasts look like. But that was the biggest challenge for us.
Let's just do one more.
Yeah, locally it was a challenge. There wasn't 5 years ago, not a strong software focused investment. It wasn't a real estate play. So it was really hard to go locally. But then to get it early stage, just bootstrap long enough to show real product market fit, revenue growth, and potential. That was kind of the main validating point made it illustrate.
And Neal, can you just define bootstrap for the room? You've said it 20 times up here, but
Yeah.
people may not know what that means.
Bootstrap is when you use your own money to start and run your company, and payroll comes every 2 weeks, whether you like it or not. And as a bootstrap company, you're responsible for that and all the other expenses associated with it.
Super. Question?
Sure, so can you comment on good money versus bad money? And if you had to do it over again, or what you're going through now, what are you looking for from an investor? Private equity provides a whole cafeteria of services now they did in the past. What are you looking for from potential investors?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, good money versus bad money. You think, oh, you're going to raise money and everything's going to be great, but that investor is really key. And as you're looking for who can be supportive going forward, it's somebody who's just interested in writing a check, and then sitting on the sidelines and not being helpful as far as an advisor role, or even if additional rounds of capital are needed to step up and participate in that, can be tough. So good money are folks who can help you with the company, can advise you with the company, can introduce you to key relationships that can help grow your business then as well. And then, and Jim's absolutely right, now the modern venture capital company has a deep infrastructure to help their portfolio companies, including digital marketing staffs, lead generation staffs, IT expertise that really, they try to give their portfolio companies as much support as they possibly can to get them, beyond airborne and to exit.
Andrew?
So I would say the best money is the customer money. And really that's, at the end of the day, the most expensive money is your money as an investor for me. The best money is selling to the customer. And we at Main Space, we bootstrapped via the customer and grew the business that way. But from an investment perspective, good money and bad money is money where disengaged investors, absolutely bad money. But bad money also can be where there is misalignment on the exit strategy and misalignment on timing of milestones in the exit strategy. So understanding the sales cycles of the business, understanding the typical growth and exit velocity in a sector, and then making sure that the investor has that cold and that you're all comfortable with that is really it's as fundamental in like in a romantic relationship as like, hey, are we gonna have kids? Like that's the fundamental of a business relationship.
So outside of just investment capital, any comments or just perspective from the local business community with like peer-to-peer and partnerships and support from the city in general? Because I know just from experience working with Kelly and having hundreds of thousands of dollars deployed with projects together on this, like I had an intentional focus to try to pick vendors to work on these projects and source locally to do this type of stuff. But do you all see that as well? And are you getting the support that you need from the local community and from the business leaders here locally as far as just partnerships and not necessarily just investment dollars?
That's great, and I like that you've done that and you made that clear kind of early on, which is great to see. And we've worked with other local companies there that have had similar mindset, and that's great. So I don't know how to engender more of that, but the motivation to keep it local is a strong one that I encourage all larger companies to have, being someone who wants to work with them. So I'm not sure what else they money-wise, but being able to do business in town here definitely helps rise the tide for everyone.
Drew, you want to close us out? You got several organizations you're serving.
Yeah, it's been a big push for us. I use it in my sales approach a lot. But we serve JSO here locally, JTA. We do a lot of work with JEA, the City of Jacksonville, the North Florida TPO, Florida Department of Transportation, the District 2 that's here. And a lot of our pitch is, hey, if you're going to give this work out, may as well be to a data firm like ours here locally that can really put the money back into the local economy. So that's helped in the sales pitch. That's been more of an organic approach. And obviously, if there's ways for us to really push that initiative at a more global, kind of local level here, I think that would really help this local ecosystem a lot.
Okay. We close it out on time.
Thank you, Matt, and fabulous job. If you'll please help me with a round of applause for our panelists and our facilitator. Thank you, Dr. Simek, for your knowledge today. And our intention in bringing you all together really was to share knowledge and to be a connector via knowledge for our city. And we hope we've achieved that. We have a new Center for Organizational Research and Executive Education, whose vision is exactly that. So please know that we are here for you. We are a big part of the city, Jacksonville University at JU. And a huge appreciation for Matt Chang, who has started this in bringing us all together to have the conversation, to talk about venture capital in the city, and to talk about how on the surface, sometimes we think we're competing with each other, but yet if we look beyond the surface and understand how we can cooperate, we can advance all of us and the city together. So thank you for being here. And of course, we'll hang around for a little bit if you have any questions for our panelists, for our expert here, or for Mr. Chang. Thank you so much. Have a great day.